Hey guys, what's up? This Punk Guy here. Thanks for joining me back on my review channel. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. Now, we have a lot to unpack here. So before we delve into this album review, let's give this video a like and a thumbs up. And don't forget to add me on Instagram at this Punk Guy. I'll always put a link down there below. And feel free to leave a comment on what you guys thought about this review as well. But let's get right into it. If you guys don't know who the Interrupters are, you've been living under a rock for like the last 6 years. They are a Los Angeles-based ska punk band. This is their fourth full-length LP, Into the Wild. Here's the front, here's the back. All records were released on Hellcat Records, and their last album came out back in 2018, Fight the Good Fight. So I'll be real quick about this album cover. I really like it. It's my favorite album cover by them. It really harkens back to that 80s kind of two-tone, maybe even like new wave vibe of the band. Usually most of their albums are just kind of like random pictures of them on the cover, but I feel like this one has a real theme to it. I feel like I have so much to say about this record, and I kind of don't know really where to start. So coming off their previous 2018 release, I felt the band had like a really huge momentum, especially with their single, and I felt like their next release, like most bands that were going to go into a more commercial sound, bands like No Doubt or Hole. When Fight the Good Fight came out, I felt like it was a really strong record at first, and then it kind of slowly dwindled into being my least favorite record. Into the Wild is unique in that sense because it does heavily go way more into that commercial sound, but at the same time has its feet dug in that ska roots sound. While some of the songs definitely have a more pop rock sound of songs you would hear back in 2005 that were sung by like Ashlee Simpson or Avril Lavigne, not knocking it because those are some of my favorite tracks on the album. There's a very solid foundation of ska on here, and not just the third wave ska that we're used to by them, but there is a lot of heavy influence by the 80s two-tone movement. Bands like The Specials, The Madness, The Beat. You guys know the Interrupters have a working relationship with Tim Armstrong of Rancid, and most of these songs were co-written by Amy and Tim. The album is probably the heaviest when it comes to lyrical content. Amy really does open up about her struggles on here, dealing with depression, abandonment, and even her dreams. She is very vulnerable on this album, and her voice is just so powerful and impactful. It really does give me goosebumps, like just thinking about it. I can only really imagine the strength it took for her to really open up on this album like this. If anything, I do walk away with a huge, strong respect and admiration for her for laying it all out there. So let's talk about the tracks right here, because some of the tracks are really big hits, and let's be honest, some of them are kind of misses. As I mentioned before, this album is very roots heavy. Love Never Dies and As We Live are both very high points on this album. Tim Armstrong and Rhonda Dakar from Body Snatchers both guest vocaling on this. Ironically, the track Burdens featuring Alex and Greg Lee from Hellcat is kind of a miss for me, which is kind of sad to say because I really love me some Hellcat. But if you're looking for some tracks with that familiar Interrupter sound, tracks like Jailbird and Let Them Go are very high marks. They're super bangers on here. They're just straight fire, have that high punk ska energy that you're looking for. Raised by Wolves, if not for the deep content of the lyrics of this song, would sound just kind of like any other pop rock song. But the Interrupters, and especially Amy, really make it her own, and it becomes a real heartbreaking song. So the track In the Mirror was the pre-release track and the very first single off this album, and this was the track that just kind of confirmed for me that they were definitely headed in a more commercial, mainstream direction. Even though this is a ska song, it feels like this song was written more as a pop song with ska elements as opposed to a ska song with pop elements. If that makes any sense to you. So let's be real for a minute. I distinctively remember listening to this track in my car and pulling over and listening to it over and over again. So there's something so vulnerably, relatably strong about this track. When I first heard it, I was holding back tears. The track is about no matter how good or successful you are in life, it never feels like you're good enough. A very subtle hint of like loneliness that's always kind of like standing guard and holding you back from the ability of being happy as a person. And it just really did kind of touch me a lot. It just meant like so much to me, I guess, in that time. I just really resonated with it. And when she's howling, no matter how far on that track at the very end, I just can't help but like well up. This is hands down my favorite track on the record, and by all means, my favorite track by the Interrupters period. For a song like that to just resonate with me and bring out that kind of emotion, it was shocking, really. But let's be honest, there are a few weak tracks on here. The track My Heart, which is like a 50s almost doo-wop sound, is kind of a miss for me. The Hard Way and Worse for Me, those two tracks kind of sound like filler. But overall, there are definitely more hits than misses. Tracks like Kiss the Ground, which is like a reggae dub roots sound, fucking killer. So in conclusion, I could sit here and talk about all the tracks because I really do have something to say about all these tracks. So you know how I mentioned earlier that Fight the Good Fight was my favorite Interrupters album and then it eventually became my least over time? I definitely think Into the Wild is going to be the opposite. It was my least favorite on the first listen to, but the more and more I listen to it, the more and more I really do kind of fall in love with this album. Not just them, I fall in love with Amy's voice. I fall in love with Amy's lyrics. They're so touching and moving, and you can feel all the heart and soul that this whole band put into this record, really. Let's be honest, it's really hard not to give this album a 5-star rating because some of these tracks on here are just so moving, but there are a few misses on here. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I could definitely see why a casual Interrupters fan would just see it as just being okay, but as a fan of the Interrupters, you really understand all the depths that they put into it. Not just being an Interrupters fan, but a fan of music in general. That was my review, guys, of the Interrupters Into the Wild. Let me know, what did you guys think? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Were you guys as moved by this album as I was? Did it make you feel kind of sappy? Did it make you feel kind of happy? Sorry if it did. This is an album that just really resonated with me, and I just felt something really deep and an emotional connection to it. So those were my thoughts anyway. Let me know what your thoughts are. Leave a comment and give this video a thumbs up. Add me on Instagram at ThisPunkGuy. And like always, guys, I'll see you at a show. Alright guys, thanks for watching that full review. I thought this review was actually going to be a lot longer. I had so much to say about this album, but thanks for sticking through this whole thing. I really appreciate it. If you like this review, go check out one of my other reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one.